Annette McCarney, Drummonier. This video demonstrates how the main underfloor area works now. So we have four now fully independent zones. The sitting room, the hall, the sunroom and the kitchen. That's in this area. And each one of them can switch on individually without having the others on. Or they can be all off, or they can be all on, or any combination of. And because we have the stats connected to this box, and then in turn underneath here we have the actuators, new actuators. We can just see there that the hall one has been on, and it's going off. So we have these will switch off all the zones individually, all these new actuators, and trigger the pump. So in its most basic form, I'm just going to demonstrate now how it works. So if we just take one of the stats, like the sitting room. So firstly, we can program these stats, but that's on another video, and that can be handy to have different times and temperatures. Okay, so in its most basic form, the best way to use this stat, well, not the best way, but the simplest way to use it is to press the hold button, and then we get the hold written on the screen. There we see hold written on the screen when we press this. And what it does when it's in hold is it operates just like one of the old-fashioned turn stats. So when we put the set temp, I can't get this string out of the way. So when we put the temperature, for example, to 19 as it is now, it will stay at 19 forever until we change it. And we can change it with the plus and minus buttons. So there's the, you can see it in the video, the plus button is at the top, and when we press that, it goes up to 20, press it again, 21, and so on and so forth. And press the minus button and it goes down to whatever temperature we need it. So right now I'm just going to put it up to 19 because I want it to turn on, and sometimes it takes 10 seconds and sometimes it takes maybe a minute or two to switch on. So there we go. Because I put it up to 19, a little flame has appeared and we've heard a little click. So now this room is heating. It's calling for heat, I should say. So the first thing that happens is this little flame comes on. And now if I go back out, like for example, the hall here now is not calling for heat, that's looking for 16 and it's 18. So then the next thing we can look for is when we look at these labels, the sitting room light is on. If I can see that on the video, there we go, but the hall is off and so are the others. And then after about 5 minutes after we've turned on the sitting room, we will see blue rings appear here at the top of the sitting room. So we can see there the first two here are labeled sitting room, and then the next two are the sunroom, and then no, actually that's the I don't know where it hasn't been labeled, this number 3, so we're not sure where that is going, but it's wired into the sitting room, so it's probably the sitting room and then the sunroom and the hall and the kitchen. So they're all matching up now. So the only thing we have had to assume is that these labels are all correct, the ones that are on the manifold. So I'm going to pause it now and we'll see then that they'll come up in a few minutes. So then after 5 minutes or so we can see that the sitting room actuators are on, and then we'll feel this manifold is hot. And this the back pipes are hot, and then after maybe half an hour or so the front ones will get warm as well. So now what we've done is we've switched on the stat and we've switched on the valves that will allow flow to the sitting room area, and that pump has come on. So, and in turn the boiler has been triggered. So just to recap, when we switch on a zone, we firstly get the flame on the stat. If we went into the sitting room now, we'd see the flame on the sitting room one. Oh, that's the flame over the number. And then these lights come on for the boiler, which is the boiler in this case, and the valve, and the sitting room light is on here. The other three are not. So we have the flame comes on the stat, the light comes on the logic strip there, then the actuators come up allowing flow, the pump comes on, and finally it also triggers automatically the boiler. So when we come down to the boiler here now, with that one stat on, we can see it has been triggered automatically. And I've put these labels on it. Leave this on, the boiler is controlled by the room thermostats. So no need to switch this off. In a minute I'll demonstrate that once we turn off a stat, all of this switches off automatically. And I've said leave this on 24 hour and leave on hot water CH. So that's that too. As I'm here, I'm just going to take you through, check the heating pressure regularly. Pressure must be above 1.3 bar. So there's the pressure gauge. It's upside down as we look at it, but it's at about 1.3 there, which is fine. It's actually about 1.4. If the pressure drops below 1 or so, we need to switch on this valve and switch on this valve by turning it this way, and then switch it off again, and this one off. Off is perpendicular to the pipe, like you see there. To fill, use the red lever valve on this inline and the grey round now. So that's it. The boiler's on now as well. So now I'm going to switch off that sitting room stat and show you what happens. So just before I switch it off, we notice here that there are the power light is on and 3 other lights, the sitting room and the boiler and valve. So now I'm going to turn down the stat by pressing the minus button so that the 18 or the set temperature here goes below the room temperature, and when the set temperature goes below the room temperature, the stat will switch off. And there we see the flame is gone. We have a little click that it's clicking off, and when it has clicked off, we can see that the lights are all gone off here now. Those the sitting room one and the boiler and the valve. And if I go down to the boiler room, so I'll just pause while I'm walking down, we can see that the boiler power has been cut. It's all off completely. So all automatic. You don't have to touch anything else except for the room stats. And then finally, again after 3 or 4 minutes, the other thing that will happen is those little blue rings will go down. Oops. So that's it in manual mode. I'm just going to show you one more. We'll do the hall one here because it's right beside us. So if we put on the hall, for instance, turn the temperature up, there's the little flame. There's the hall light on, which triggers the boiler and the valve. And now what will happen is these 2 hall, after 5 minutes, you'll see the blue rings appear on the 2 hall ones. They're still going down. And if we look at the boiler, we'll see now that the boiler has triggered on automatically again. There we go. Red lights on that, and it's running. So I'm going to switch it off. And then finally, it can be these are programmable stats, so they have a timer and everything built in. So you can program these that such that in the evening when you're maybe sitting down watching TV, you could program it in this room to be 20 or 21 or 22, whatever your comfortable temperature is. And then when you go to bed, you could set the temperature down to 17 or 18, and then have it come up in the morning if you so desire. And there's a separate video which I'll send you a link to on how to program these and set them up. It's simple enough to program them, but again, it's not necessary. You could just use them in manual mode. That's it. That's how the main system works. I'm just going to do a separate video on the end room.